Woo! Wow. Hello. Good afternoon. Hello, everybody. Let me make sure I get myself all nice and set up here and ready to go. All right. Welcome to the Jaybe Show on Revolutionary Blackout Network. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. So good to see all of you here. Let me see something. Oh, wait. Yeah, there we go. All right. That's more like it. Now, Every single Sunday, you guys can catch me on Revolutionary Blackout Network on Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as well as on RBN Live on Tuesdays at 4 and the Sabby and Jaybe show on Thursdays at 6. I also have my own channel as well. You guys can catch me on the Jaybe Font channel on Tuesdays at 2. So I always have a show on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. If you guys want to get more of me, yeah, you want to get more of me? Get more of me on Tuesdays as well. So, as per usual, thank you to all the patrons on Patreon. For without you guys, we would not be able to do this. And thank you to all the people who continuously support me via various different means as far as mutual aid, things like that. I also dearly appreciate that as well. As usual, I have to say hello to everybody in the chat because this is an interactive program and that's how I like to do things. So we're going to start off with the people in the chat coming in. American Wasp with Deter McBusiness says Chiefs and OT. Interesting. That's going to be interesting. I mean, yeah, the Super Bowl is today, so that's an interesting part. Eric Gray says, "Sup, y'all? And as soon as I can see the title, Disney is still trash." Yeah, we're gonna get into that, dog. We're gonna get into that because I live in the land of the mouse. The mouse rules the city that I live in. So we got to talk about it. We got to talk about it. We got to talk about it. Sarina Sawyer says, "Howdy, everyone. It's good to see us, Sarina." CBC voter is also in the chat saying, "Happy Sunday, JB. Thank you so very much." And while we're at it, absolutely, I have my tea here. I cannot wait. Hang on, wait. It's hot. Oh, but I did it good. I did a good job. Yep. Pat on the back, baby. Pat on the back. All right. Cicely says, liked and shared. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Make sure to smash down that like button because that pushes us out in the algo, like Sabby always like to say. So guess what? We need to get this information out there so that people realize the power that they do not have, that they think that they don't have. Lone Wolf says capitalism is working exactly how it should. Wake up, people, or smile for the camera. Thank you so very much for that. Hang on just 1 second. Hope y'all didn't hear that. I try to make sure I mute myself whenever I do that. Stephen T says, "Hey, JB. Hey, Stephen. Good to see you." Jason Dick says, "Woo!" Good to see you, Jason. Terry Connolly says, "Hi, fam." All right. Waddy Pilgrim says, "Hey, everybody." Tony Bananas says, "I thought I was late. Good thing I wasn't watching Sab's Roger Waters video." Oh, good thing I wasn't. I was watching Sab's Roger Waters video. Yeah. Awesome. As well as Roger Meadows says, "Any update on Disney longer paying for community services due to DeSantis taking away tax exemptions?" I have to look into that. We have Reality Revolution saying, "Salutations. Salutations to you, Reality Revolution." All right. And let's check on The Rock to see if there's anybody on just yet. Not at the moment, but we shall see in a little while. Okay. So, as you guys can tell from the title is State of Crime. So, we're going to get into that. And then Disney screws workers again. So, what do we mean by the state of crime? I have state in all caps in the title, not on the thumbnail, but in the title. And why do I have that? And I'll give you guys an explanation of that. And then the Disney is screwing the workers. So, the mouse. The House of Mouse, Mr. Oh boy, oh. Yeah, that guy. There is some news brewing right now that a lot of people are really suffering. Now, if anybody, especially from Anaheim, California, or Orlando, Florida, know that Disney does not call their employees employees. They call their employees cast members, CAST. And that's really an acronym, but they call their employees cast members, members of a cast, basically, right? So, cast members from Disney are being laid off. How many? Well, let's take a look. If you guys do not subscribe to the World Socialist website, it is a great resource. But it says Disney announces 7,000 layoffs after exceeding Wall Street profit estimates. 7,000 people being laid off. Remember when Alphabet, which is the parent company of Google, Meta, which is the parent company of Facebook, Twitter, as many other different tech giants also announced mass layoffs? Well, Disney's doing the same. Let's get into it. This is written by Kevin Reed. I'm not going to read the entire article because I want you guys to go to it and give this article a read, because when it comes to sites like World Socialist website, we want them to get the clicks, we want them to get the traffic, but I want to touch on some pieces to the story so that we're up to speed on what's going on. So it starts with the media and entertainment monopoly. Walt Disney Company announced 7,000 layoffs on Wednesday as part of a corporate restructuring aimed at increasing profits and improving investor earnings by cutting $5.5 billion in costs. An earnings call with investors, Disney CEO Robert Iger, yes, Robert Iger was placed back as CEO of Walt Disney Company, presented the Jobs massacre as a cause for celebration, saying, quote, "It's time for another transformation," end quote. Meanwhile, Iger said, "I have enormous respect and appreciation for the dedication of our employees worldwide. Even though 3% of Disney's 220,000 workers will be losing their jobs." The layoffs are connected with a reorganization that Iger said was necessary to dramatically cut costs that will fully materialize by the end of 2024. Of the 5.5 billion in cost savings, 2.5 billion are in non-content aspects of corporation, such as marketing, 50%, labor costs, 30%, and technology, 20%. It is significant that Disney is taking advantage of the climate of mass layoffs hitting technology, financial, and other sectors that had huge losses in the past year to go after the job of its employees while the company had a profitable quarter. 7,000 job cuts were announced through Disney, though Disney reported revenues of 24.5 billion in the quarter that ended in December, an 8% increase compared to last year, and earnings rose to 1.28 billion from 1.1 billion a year ago, beating analyst projections. However, the all-important per-share earning category fell to 99 cents from $1.06 last year. And so this goes on to say how Disney Plus actually lost some money. And so, but the main takeaway basically is Disney made a buttload of money, and in order to make more money, they're going to be laying off people whose lives will be directly affected. So this is what's going on. And a lot of people are fans of Disney. Yeah, I got a Disney Plus account too. Yeah, what of it? But the problem is that these corporations, all of them, are basically doing this restructuring while doing mass layoffs. So this goes into the capitalist aspect. Because did they make money year over year? Yes. But to them, it's not enough. And what do we always say? Capitalism is a economic system, an economic model that requires infinite growth on a planet with finite resources. So in order to continuously do that, in order to do that, even if they don't make money from the revenue, they still have to make money somewhere. So what does that mean? That means cutting costs. And some of those costs are labor. That means people like you and me. That means people like our neighbors, our friends, our family, people like that. And so they're the ones that suffer, even though the corporation still made a profit, even though these executives still made bank, even though a lot of times the shareholders still got their dividend checks. It's still not enough. They want more. That is how these corporations work. Disney is the one of the foremost of these corporations that continuously does this. And then who gets shafted? Who gets screwed? It's us. It's us. And a lot of times people will go, well, out of 220,000, only 3%, that's very small numbers. But then once you put it into actual numbers of how many people, how many households that will affect, 7,000 households. 7,000 households. I'm not saying people, I'm saying households, because there are people who depend on that check in order to make a living. Now, there was there are people who are unionized at Disney. Yeah. There are people who are unionized, and this is out of Orlando Weekly. And by the way, I live in Orlando, so this is very close to home. This is home. So it says Disney's best offer for union employees falls short, according to the workers' unions. The STCU, a coalition of 6 labor unions representing 42,000 Disney employees, recommends rejecting the latest offer. And this was on January 10th of this year. So it says after months of contract negotiations, and a rally to bring attention to the need for the Walt Disney Company to pay its Orlando employees wages that keep up with the cost of living, the unions representing Disney workers say the company's best offer falls short. Disney workers are facing extreme financial difficulties, including inflation, which has caused a price of food and rent to skyrocket. The Services Trade Council Union, a coalition of 6 labor unions representing 42,000 Disney employees, shared in a news release. According to the unions, Disney unveiled its best offer for Orlando employees during contract negotiations on Monday. The offer, in line with what Central Florida's largest employer floated last year, is an immediate $1 raise for the majority of their union workers in 2023, which would bring the minimum wage for their lowest paid workers to $16 an hour, and a $1 raise annually over the next 5 years. Now, what is the counter? What is the demand, right? The demand is the unions say this isn't good enough. The STCU has called on Disney to establish an $18 minimum wage and a $3 pay raise in 2023 for workers who already make near or above that to keep up with the higher cost of living in Central Florida. Now, there is, I honestly say that that is inadequate even as a demand. I'm going to tell you why. Um, I think it's, yeah. So, of course, you guys know that I live in Central Florida. So, I'm going to share something with you guys, and then we'll continue back to the article. But they're saying $18 an hour with a $3 wage increase for 2023. I say, why go so small? That's what I say. So, this is a great calculator, and you guys can use this. I'm going to put the link in the chat. If you guys go to livingwage.mit.edu, it actually gives the calculable minimum wage for the area that you live. Now, let me see. All right. So, all you do is you go to that site and then you select the location, right? So, for me, I'm in Florida. And then we go to the county that you're in. I'm in Orange County, which is also where Disney is located. It says living wage calculation for Orange County, Florida. It says the living wage shown is the hourly rate that an individual in a household must earn to support his or herself and their family. The assumption is the sole provider is working full time, 2,080 hours per year. The tool provides information for individuals and households with one or two working adults and 0 to 3 children. In that case of households with two working adults, all values are per working adult, single, or in a family unless otherwise noted. The state minimum wage is the same for all individuals, regardless of how many dependents they may have. Data is updated annually in the first quarter of the new year. State minimum wages are determined based on the posted value of the minimum wage as of January of the coming year. So let's take a look. So let's say you're just a single adult with no kids and it says 1885, right? But what is the average rent in Florida? Actually, let me do Orange County because that's a little bit more wider. Did that actually, wait, did that go up? Did that go up? It's even worse than I. Holy shit! It went up since the last time I looked. Holy shit! All right, hold up. Let me show you all this. It went up. I had in my mind a number in next, because of living here, and then it went up. It went up. It went up. It's just crazy. This is ridiculous. All right, so this is from rent.com. So average rent in Orlando, Florida is $1,769. Wait, what? How in the hell is a studio more expensive? What the hell? Studio average rent in Kirkman, Princeton Silver Star. That's the hood. That's 1,600. Dear God. Holy crap. It went up. It literally went up. Because the last time I looked, it had to be like 2 months ago. Holy crap. Well, let's do the math. So if we're looking at $1,700, right? And you need to make 3 times that in order to afford it, right? Per month. That's $5,100 you need to make. Divide that by 160 hours. I don't know if y'all can see this, but $31.87 an hour. So even by MIT standards, it's still inadequate. Even by MIT standards. Because they're saying 18 bucks an hour, and then the union said, oh, well, we should go by 18 bucks an hour. And then I look at the average price for a one-bedroom apartment in Orlando, which is about $1,700. Because look, if you're making $18 an hour times 160 hours a week, that's $2,280, right? So divided by 3 means your rent has to be around $960, right? But guess what? Nobody's paying a rent at $960 for a one bedroom. Nobody. So if that's the case, then why in the hell is a union shooting so low? Because Disney, the parks, made record profits. So my question to the union leaders is, well, aiming so low. Y'all need to be aiming for 45 an hour. Bump that. Disney tickets are astronomical right now. And they're having record attendance in the parks. And they raised their ticket prices. So for somebody to come at me and go, but Jaybe, they got to make a profit. I'm like, what about the workers? I don't care about the shareholders. The shareholders can kick rocks. I don't care about the capitalists. I care about the workers, the labor. 7,000 households. 7,000. And in order for them to actually be good, they need to have a rent of $960 or lower. That's $18 an hour. 18. And then Disney's like, oh, we're only going to pay you 16. What? When in reality, they should be asking for a lot more. And that's at 40 hours a week, not counting how they may cut your hours below 40. So you literally need to make $32 an hour to afford an apartment in Orlando. You need to make 32, and they're going, yeah, let's do 16. That's literally half of what you need to make. And people wonder why so many of us are turning to socialism. Because capitalism is showing its whole ass. That's what it's doing. And it's showing us that it is wholly inadequate and cannot sustain us. It is an unsustainable economic model that only favors a very small group of people. There's more to this story, by the way. More. So I have a video that I'm going to be showing you guys. And this is actually going to tie in to what I'm talking about, the state of crime. This is going to tie in. So hold on to your hats. But let me share my screen. Actually, let me go back to this before I go to that video. Sorry. Let's go back to this. So it says leadership of all 6 unions have recommended that union members reject the latest offer from Disney. $16 per hour in 2023 does not keep up with the rising cost of living. And $18 of an hour does? Come on now. It says every worker needs an initial raise larger than $1 to address these concerns. No shit, Sherlock. In fact, they need a $17 an hour raise. At least. Housing costs in Central Florida have soared, this is true, over the past 2 years, placing the region's low-wage service industry workers at heightened risk for displacement, eviction, and homelessness. Quote, I've never seen grown men break down. Penson, a second-generation Disney employee, said last year that he knew several co-workers who slept in their cars or pass up meals. Quote, I mean, to actually see a grown man tear up because he can't pay a bill, it's hard for people to work and live in Orlando. You literally have people, and people will say, go find a job. They literally have a job. They're literally working for one of the biggest corporations in the United States, and they literally cannot afford to work. A report released last year said United Here Local 737, one of the unions that represents Disney workers, shared that 69% of 2,415 tourism workers surveyed, including but not limited to workers employed by Disney, said that they hadn't had the money to pay rent or mortgage costs over the last year. 26% said they had to move as a result of rent or mortgage increases, and 45% reported skipping meals to cut costs. This is Disney, y'all. Central Florida's tourism industry, meanwhile, has bounced back from pandemic slowdowns and is enjoying profits surpassing pandemic levels. The Walt Disney Company last year generated a revenue of nearly $83 billion and $28.7 billion in the company's theme park division alone. And yet you got people sleeping in their cars and skipping meals just to make these people more money. And a lot of these people live in my area. Some of them have to take the 50, the bus, the 50 at downtown and then get to Disney. See, the thing is that a lot of people, they actually have to take 2 or more buses just to get to work. Trust me, I know. I've actually rode the bus to Disney before. So you have to jump on the bus. Depending on where you live, you might have to take 3. because you have to get on the bus. Like for me, if I wanted to go to Disney, I would literally have to take the 8 towards SeaWorld, and that's literally like 45 minutes to an hour ride, right? Maybe a little bit more, depending on traffic. And then you will have to get off, jump on the 50, and then take the 50 over to the TTC, the Transportation Ticket Center, right? Meanwhile, some people have to go back downtown to the the Lynx bus station, jump on the 50, then take the 50 all the way to the TTC. And then once they get there, then they have to travel even more because Disney World is massive. It is, oh my God, Disney is massive. A massive property. Acres and acres and acres and acres and acres of land. And so you literally have to, if you want to get to work on time, you literally have to leave like 3 to 4 hours before is your time to clock in. Because not only do you have to take the bus to get there, but you also have to take transportation on the property just to get to where you need to go. That means either taking a Disney bus or the monorails or other means of transportation to get to where you need to go. Just to get to where you need to clock in. Disney is that massive. It is enormous. And yet, now you have people having to sleep in their cars. And they have to skip meals just to be able to afford to live. Now, let me see. There was another article that I wanted to, let me see. Okay, here it is. Yeah. And this also is corroborated by United Here Local 362. So United Local 362, which is also a union. And they said January 9th update says Disney's management presented union representatives its best offer today. The offer on wages is largely the same as the original offer that only provides an initial $1 increase for all Locals 362 union cast members. The leadership of all 6 unions of the STCU are unanimously recommending workers vote no on this offer. Disney workers are facing extreme financial difficulties, including inflation, which has caused the price of food and rent to skyrocket. $16 per hour in 2023 does not keep up with the rising cost of living. Every worker needs an initial raise larger than $1 to address these concerns. A vote of union members will be held on February 2nd and 3rd, 2023. Details on the locations will be released at a later date. Now, they have not posted the results, and that's like 10 days ago, so I don't have that for you. But one of the things I do want to show is a video that, let me take this down and take this down so that it runs properly. Yeah, I'll take that down. Okay, I can take this down too. And also take that down. All right, so I have a video I'm going to show you guys as well. And this is how they roll. This is how they roll. All right. So this is from Mickey Views. Says Disney announces 7,000 layoffs / park investment and proxy fight ends. So let's go.
So you don't is any of that. So as I was at the Magic Kingdom with all these cast members, the CEO of the company, Bob Iger, sent out a company-wide email to cast members announcing 7,000 job cuts and providing no further detail. And then the cast members, they were getting texts from their parents. I saw it on the news, Disney's cutting 7,000 jobs. And they're like, yes, Mom, I know, stop stressing me out. I have to say, we talk about these stories a lot, the financials at Disney and the, inner workings and all this sort of stuff. But there is something more real about it this time. Among all these people, I'm talking to these people that these news stories we talk about most directly affect. We're talking about people's livelihoods here. It's definitely a pretty wild situation. And I will definitely be leveling my fair share of critiques Disney's way here. But I think it's also very easy to get carried away. So what I'm going to try to do here is give you guys a very good perspective on all of this, what's happening, why it's happening. So first off, we've got a new sheriff in town, a returning sheriff. As you all probably know, Chapek is out and Bob Iger is back. This was his first earnings call in quite a while. As you've probably heard, lots of big companies right now are announcing job cuts.
If you guys can see, it says Rupert Murdoch News Corp, which is home of Fox News, cut 1,250 jobs, laying off 5% of its workforce. Yahoo Finance says News Corp plans to cut jobs, misses estimates for earnings. CNBC says Yahoo to lay off 20% of staff by year end beginning this week.
This is due to a number of factors. There's earnings contraction starting to happen, as we've seen with a lot of these Q1 reports. You're hearing people say stuff about macroeconomics and things like this. Essentially, the deal is at these growth companies that rely heavily on borrowing money, debt is becoming more and more expensive. The rates are higher. And corresponding with this, as we've entered this more uncertain economic environment, there has been a shift on the part of investors and Wall Street where the focus is less and less on growth at all costs, like what's Disney Plus subscriber count? And that's the only thing that matters. And there's more of a focus on profitability. So is Disney Plus making money? And we know the answer is no, it isn't. And as I said, this isn't unique to Disney. A lot of big companies are announcing big cuts. And at a lot of these tech companies in particular, I think this makes a lot of sense. You're seeing at Google, they're laying off recruiters and their corporate massage therapists, things like this.
These companies are laying more than just that. They're doing a lot of staff layoffs. So, yeah, it still doesn't make sense to me.
In a tightening economic environment, it makes a lot of sense to get rid of positions like that. The difference is Disney isn't Google. Disney likes to act like a tech company. They're not a tech company. And Disney here, they're announcing 7,000 job cuts. And we heard today, these won't just be affecting the studios. They'll be affecting all segments of the company, including the parks, according to Parks Chairman Josh D'Amaro, which is just incredible because here's a company where on the studio side, a lot of these folks that you see in the credits, they aren't even directly employed by Disney. Lots of the content you see come out of Hollywood, it's people who work project to project all over Hollywood. And then you have Disney's networks, that make all of the television and stuff. A lot of those networks, the crews have been skeleton crews for a long time now. They already are operating, at their bare minimum staffing levels. And then, of course, we know on the park side, you have lots of demand, a lot of people who want to go to the parks, lots of people who love the parks, yet Disney can't find enough people to work at the parks for the prices that they're willing to pay.
And that's one point that a lot of people don't realize is that Disney is struggling to find more people to work for them. But who wants to work for you if you're not willing to pay people a livable wage? Nobody wants to work for pennies. Nobody wants to work for a pittance. Because guess what? We need to live. And yet you're cutting 7,000 workers? Wait. You're hiring, but you're cutting jobs. Make that make sense.
Understaffed as is, and they are currently embroiled in a battle with the unions over wage increases. And we're coming out of the Chapek era, which we should also mention. Bob Chapek, he didn't just cut the fat. He also cut positions that I would classify as essential on a medium to long-term time horizon. Something like maintenance, cutting maintenance positions. Maybe that improves your margins a fraction of a percent in the near term. long term, that is obviously a very poor decision and will end up
if you're cutting maintenance, especially for a theme park, and somebody dies on a ride, if you cut maintenance and somebody dies on a ride or gets hurt, that's capitalism. That's what it is. That's what it is.
costing you more later on. And then after all of this, here we get Iger back. And what do we hear? It's more the same. We're still getting layoffs, more layoffs. I really feel like we are past any fat in the company labor-wise. I really think Disney is starting to cut into the organs at this point where they're going to have to shut down areas that they operate in simply because there aren't enough casts left to even keep some of these things and these services that Disney provides going because they're already operating as skeleton crews. And here Disney is now trying to find 7,000 people to lay off in a show to investors, in a show to Wall Street. And maybe it's not just a show. Maybe they also have to do this because they have all of these financial obligations with the Fox acquisition and other beasts, which are of Iger's creation. So it's just some wild, wild stuff. Another bit of context with this earnings report in particular, this is the last big shareholder event before the shareholders vote as part of the next annual shareholders meeting, which we now know will take place on April 3rd. At the studios, Disney had some underwhelming theatrical releases that did not meet Disney's earnings projections. At the parks, though, you guys probably know how they did. They absolutely crushed. Revenues were up 21% to...
Park revenues were up 21%. Yet they're cutting staff. Yet they can't give their workers an adequate livable wage. Revenues are up 21% year over year. That's wild. Wild. And yet you can't give them an adequate livable wage. That's Disney. That's how they operate. Man. It's going to be a lot more homeless people in the streets now. Sad. Very sad.
$8.7 billion, and segment operating income increased 25% to $3.1 billion. Disney's just making stupid money at the parks, thanks to a lot of us. So now getting to the call, and this...
He said Disney is making stupid money at the parks. So much money, it's stupid. And you can't pay your workers a livable wage. I'm hammering this home, baby. Because you're making stupid money at the park. Stupid money. Like his words, stupid money. And you're saying, oh, we can only give them a $1 an hour raise. That's what we can afford. What? And then you want to cut maintenance crews? Maintenance? Capitalism is stupid. Capitalism is stupid. You're literally creating more socialists and communists that way. That's what you're literally doing. And guess what? You know what? I'm saying come in. Because all y'all that are getting all these layoffs and experiencing what capitalism is doing to you, come on in. Let's band together. Let's get rid of the system. Let's get rid of it. Because you guys are being screwed by a bunch of small group of people at the top that don't give a shit about you. That's basically what it is. They're making stupid money. And all that money that they made that they acquired is money that you produced. It was off of your labor. Because without you, those parks can't run. Those parks can't open. Try to get Space Mountain to work when there's nobody to operate the ride. Try to get Mad Tea Party to run when there's nobody to move the controls. When there's nobody to collect the tickets. When there's nobody to drive the monorails. When there's nobody to drive the buses. When there's nobody to clean the rooms at these resorts. When there's nobody to check the guests in. Workers are the ones who run the parks. The workers are the ones that run the gift shops and the restaurants and the stores. So yeah, I mean, he has more. And one of the things that he brings out is, meanwhile, while Disney is laying off 7,000 workers, Universal Orlando is hiring over 2,000 people. And it's interesting because I have a family member that works for Universal Orlando. And my family member said that they hope that Disney unions agree to wage increases because that would mean an increase for their income as well. Because as Disney goes, Universal follows because they got to compete for those workers. So let's say hypothetically Disney says, okay, we're going to start giving y'all $22 an hour. 22 base pay. Guess what Universal has to do? Guess what SeaWorld has to do? Guess what Legoland Florida has to do? Guess what Busch Gardens has to do? Right? Then guess what? Fun Spot will start to raise their prices. Aquatica will have to raise their prices. Yeah, all of them. They all have to start raising their rates that they pay their labor. But they don't want to do that because it's about the profit. The profit motive, man. That's what rules. Oh, boy. So I'm going to go to the chat really quick before we move on to the next story. I'm going to start off with Rockfin really quick. Make sure I get Rockfin first because I don't want to miss Rockfin. Okay, so thanks for the tip on Rockfin, Roger. Roger says, what was the website you mentioned? Numbers are similar with annual out of reach project by the National Low Income Coalition. Looked it up myself. What a coincidence you are mentioning Disney and DeSantis tax exempt thing just happened 2 days ago. Here's a quick update. And he gives and I'll get to that after I finish reading it. Let me enlarge that too. Okay. Hang on. This is out of Reuters that Roger shared. Reuters, Florida governor gains control over Disney District Board. So it says Florida lawmakers on Friday granted Governor Ron DeSantis effective control over the board that oversees development in and around Walt Disney Company's Central Florida theme parks. escalating the Republicans' battle with the company. State Republicans targeted Disney after a public clash with DeSantis last year over a law that restricts classroom instruction of gender and sexual orientation, known by its opponents as the Don't Say Gay measure. Legislators in Florida gave final approval on Friday to a bill authorizing the governor to approve 5 supervisors to run what is known as the Reedy Creek Improvement District, a quasi-government entity with oversight of the 25,000 acres surrounding Walt Disney World Resort. I told you it was massive. The state Senate will confirm board members. The board will have no role in day-to-day operations of theme parks. DeSantis spokesperson Brian Griffin said the prior system under which Florida legislature in 1967 gave Disney sole control over the district lacked accountability. Florida is beginning a new era of accountability and transparency. Disney World is the largest employer in Central Florida with close to 75,000 employees and drew 36.2 million visitors in 2021, according to the Theme Entertainment Association. So yeah, I'm gonna put this article in the chat. But yeah, that's a whole nother dog, in this battle. Let's go back to Rockfin. Roger continues. Says, how about a citizen ballot initiative, CBI, right of first refusal amendment to Florida Constitution, saying if a company has demonstrated a record of egregious and abusive behavior of putting the public trust, environment, workers, and consumers at risk, then the courts are obligated to rip ownership away and give it to the workers, but in the short term, stationalize it till workers are ready to take over. I absolutely love this, and I would look, and this is when Roger touches on something that Roger's a man after my own heart. Roger's, you like a big brother. So imagine, for just in your mind's eye, Walt Disney World, worker owned. Just imagine, worker owned and operated. Can you imagine the amount of thriving wages that would happen because of the custodians, the food service, the quick service workers, the people that work in the restaurants, the people that clean the rooms, front desk agents, the service workers, the ride operators, all these people, the people who work in transportation, the bus drivers, the monorail drivers, the boat captains. Imagine the Imagineers. Imagine the character actors. All of them having an ownership in the company, and they have a direct democratic say on how it operates, and they get profit shares evenly distributed among all of them. Imagine the people that are in the call centers that actually that are getting information and processing ticket sales via the phone or online, or the people at the ticket office. Just imagine. It would be beautiful, wouldn't it? I actually would want to go more if it was actually employee owned. I would actually want to go more. And you know what's funny? I actually think the ticket price would actually go down. I seriously do think the ticket price would actually go down because they would be like, well, we want more residents, especially within the area to go. They used to have a Florida residence price. I think that's gone. I don't think they have a Florida residence price anymore. Like if you showed up with your Florida ID, then it was like, oh, you're a Florida resident. Okay, you get a special price. You get it in cheaper. Not anymore. They stopped that. They're like, nah, you pay full price just like everybody else. I don't care if you came from Bangladesh. You're going to pay the same price as somebody who comes from Bangladesh. You're going to pay the same price as somebody comes from Australia. You're going to pay the same price as somebody that comes from Italy. That's how they operate, man. Now, let's go to some. Oh man, you guys are having a whole separate conversation here. Ron Ciel the Great says Universal is not publicly traded. Yeah, I don't think it is. Casey says we need to give the workers the power to not need to work to live. I mean, that's a pretty base quote. Thank you so much for that. Roger says Forbes did an article that said Apple was worker-owned cooperative. Each would make $403,000 a year. Wonder how much workers would make if Disney were a co-op. That's a good question. I mean, if Disney has a revenue of $83 billion, and they have over 220,000 workers, and by all the workers, it's not just the studios, or it's not just the studios or the theme parks. It's also the cruise lines. It's also the stores, the satellite stores that they have throughout, the websites, things like that. They're game developers because Disney also has game developers. You will also talk about people at ESPN. You also talk about people at ABC, including ABC News. By the way, Disney owns ABC, which is also part of ABC News. So Disney literally owns a news corporation. Think about that. So Barbara Walters was literally a Disney employee. David Muir is literally a Disney employee. They're literally Disney employees. Whoopi Goldberg is literally a Disney employee. All the people at The View are Disney employees. Raziel the Great says that's why Six Flags have become trash. I would love to see all these companies worker owned. VMTur says Jaybe, I think I'm having one large employer employing most people in one area can lead to devastating consequences. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's monopoly. I mean, look at Walmart. Just, Casey says just being in a union, workers can make 30% more since the 70s. I don't know if that's true anymore. I don't know, because from what it looks like, some aren't making as much because, the union bosses sometimes they're in cahoots with the people at the top. This is why I think worker ownership is more valuable than union. Now, I will say this. Unions is a step in the right direction. I will say that. But even better is worker ownership. Because And some people don't like when I say that, but I'm sorry, but unions are a couple steps above, but worker ownership is miles above, because worker ownership literally means worker ownership. Unions basically means that you have worker collective power, but the power still lies in the hands of the people who are over the corporation. That's the only thing. So while I say unions are a step in the right direction, the power is still in the hands of the owner. Now they can do some things like strikes and things like that, but now they're trying to make strikes illegal in this country. They're trying to take the power out of the hands of the workers even more. But can you take power out of the hands of the workers if the workers are collectively owning it? It's a lot harder. Says Wadi says, don't like DeSantis or his crew, but having a corporation effectively control over a state district is not ideal, to say the least. And that's also true. That's a really good point, because really it should be the voice of the people that determine what goes on, which I will agree with you, Wadi. So I don't necessarily think that the state having jurisdiction over where that corporation is, because then that also is a slippery slope to all other corporations to have basically their own ownership of a district. So yeah, I agree. I just would love to see that it is taken over by the workers, and if it's too big to be private, then make it state run. A lot of people look at me crazy, like Disney being state run. Yeah. Until you can give it over to the workers, yeah. Roger's comment was based. I agree wholeheartedly. Let me see. Oh, I think I got a super chat. Oh, Roger says, then it'd truly be the happiest. It'd truly be the happiest place on earth. For right now, you know what the happiest place on earth is? Inside my head. But yo, real talk, if Disney was worker owned, oh my gosh, I honestly would try to get tickets to go if it was worker owned. I definitely would. Roger also says, force free market capitalists to look at their own hypocrisy and say competition ceases to exist in a monopoly. This is also very true. Hey, free marketers, why are you not being vocal about antitrust enforcement? Screen Arts Media says worker owners will become wealthy in a company value and assets. They will sell the company to another corporation, sell out, and join the leisure class, abandoning the next generation of workers. Have you seen that in practice? Have you? Because if worker owners own the company, then they can probably retire, but said Laidlaw Wire Corp. The thing about the free market is that it's not free. We live in a capitalist state. And so the thing about capitalism is that in order to continuously exist, you have to make more year over year, and you have to exploit a certain amount of people over time. So Says Jamie says that won't happen because company charter won't allow it. Yeah, good question, Roger. It says Screen Arts Media, what do you propose as a viable solution? So yeah. Oh, 7,000 workers got laid or are getting laid off. Even though Disney, particularly its theme parks, have made record profits. A 21% increase profits year over year, making billions of dollars. And yet they don't want to give an adequate pay increase to their workers. So I got to get to the next article, but let me check to make sure there's okay. So to the not article, but to the next story. State of crime. So hang on before I get to that. No, you don't limit capitalism because here's the problem. Capitalism is a cancer. And once capitalism takes hold again, then it will grow and fester and it'll become exactly where it is right now. What you're basically talking about, from what it sounds like, is a democratic, a socially democratic state. Guess what? It does not work because somebody still gets shafted in the end. And the thing is that capitalism is not the exact same as commerce. Commerce can still exist in the socialist state. People can still have small businesses. You know what I mean? But the thing is, are you exploiting your workers, or things like that? So, as far as capitalism, no, not limit capitalism, end it, destroy it, get it out of here, because it's never going to be truly a viable system. So that's just what I think. But I'm a socialist, so. But yeah, so state of crime. So I want to give a shout out to Case Study. Case Study actually is doing the damn thing again. Came back from vacation with a vengeance. So shout out to you, Case Study. Case Study actually shared a video from CBS. And he's talking to Summer Lee. And she says a couple things that I do agree with, but let's hear what's said.
Congresswoman, you said it would be good to revive the George Floyd Policing Act, but we're so far past that right now, we really need to kind of escalate the conversation faster. What do you mean? What are you calling for?
So let me be really clear. There is a proliferation of disinformation and bias in conversations about crime and conversations about policing. And to be very clear, police violence is crime. We cannot say that we care about crime, but then do nothing, choose to do nothing over and over and over when the crime is committed by a police officer. There are statistics that show that less than 2% of police officers who are engaged in the misconduct are ever indicted at all. And while we can all celebrate that 5 Black police officers, right, and let it not escape us that it was only when they were Black that there was swift action, and there was a 6th who was not Black, and there was not swift action, that we can say that Tyree should be alive. So should Tatiana Jefferson. So should Antoine Rose II from my district. So should Mike Brown. So should Philando Castile. They should all be alive. So when we're talking about crime and we're talking about how we're going to solve it, when I say that we need to change the conversation, we need to acknowledge that public safety does not begin with policing. Public safety begins with investments. It begins with addressing our own implicit and explicit biases in policymaking and education and appropriations.
So when the president...
So basically, I mean, that was a good answer. I'm not going to lie. That was a good answer. A lot of times, and I may get some flack for this, but it is what it is. A lot of times people will talk about gun control. And they'll say, we need common sense gun control. They never put police in that equation. They never want gun control for police. And it's like, wait a minute. The shooting deaths that happen are also due to them. They are literally killing us left and right. Wow, that's a loud plane. But yeah, they don't ever talk about them. They'll talk about people in, mass shootings. They'll talk about gun deaths in inner city neighborhoods and things like that. But they don't ever talk about police when it comes to gun reform. Even though they're the ones doing some of the murdering. Just a thought.
It talks about reviving George Floyd.
Begins with addressing our own implicit and explicit biases in policymaking and education and appropriations.
So when the president talks about reviving George Floyd Policing Act, you're saying not as it's currently written. You want more measures.
Absolutely. I want us to be intentional at every step about addressing racial bias, about addressing poverty, about addressing crime, and about addressing police violence.
I think Representative Lee is absolutely.
So are you saying, Representative Lee, that you think we should defund the police? Is that what you're saying? I mean, if you're saying that, I agree. But is that what you're saying? Just shape your mouth into defund the police. Defund the police. Go ahead. You can say it. You can say it. It's okay. It's okay. Nobody's going to hurt you. Well, your party might, politically. But the people will be behind you. Especially people in the hood. Yeah, won't be behind you. Because that means you want to reinvest into our areas. And by people in the hood, I'm not just talking about black people. I'm talking about white people in their hoods too. You don't think that they don't face the same things? Oh, yeah. They face the same thing. And guess what? A lot of them want to defund the police too because they're sick and tired of being sick and tired. So, is that what you're saying? Come on, you can say it. Say it. Say it with your whole chest. I don't think she will, though.
Absolutely right. And I would vote for the George Floyd Policing Act if it was on the floor tomorrow, but more needs to be done.
But the George Floyd Policing Act actually gives more money to the police. Why? That's an anathema to what needs to happen. I mean, if you're going to be giving more money to the police, then that's not defunding the police. Why are we giving more money to police when we should be taking money away from them, and that money invested should go towards us for housing, healthcare, food, education, actually improving the ecological environment of our areas that we live. Why are we talking about still voting for it? Why? What?
It won't be put on the floor tomorrow under Republican leadership,
Absolutely.
to be clear.
And that's why I want to be clear also with when our colleagues bring up that more should be done around this issue. The truth is that you look at a place like California or most of the country, we are actually safer today than we were 15, 20, or 30 years ago.
Why? Why is that? Is it because of police? Police only solve 2% of crime. All right, Robert.
Statistically. And so there's a lot of concerns around crime, and there should be. We all want to be safe. But we also got to look at the data and actually look at the facts. The truth is that every single election cycle, it just seems that there's a lot of focus on crime and inner cities. And the truth is that we are safer than we were 20 or 30 years ago.
But there was a spike in violent crime.
In New York State in particular, the reason there was a focus on crime by voters is because they didn't feel safe. You had people being pushed in front of oncoming subway.
Bullshit. Bullshit. You want to know why some voters are so concerned with crime? Let's look at the onset of how many of these corporate media, these local corporate media, constantly focus on crime and talk about how bad it is, when in reality, the crime rate has actually dropped. They're constantly talking about, oh, well, this person was shot, and this person was shot, and this person was raped, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, wait a minute. It's actually a lot less than what it used to be. The problem is that you guys keep repeating the exact same story and making it seem like it's really bad when really it actually went down. Also, on top of that, the crime rate also tends to tick up because of the onset of poverty. So guess what? There's an answer for that. There is a really good answer for that. But the thing is that some of y'all don't want to address it, because that means if addressing it, then that means you're going to be taking some of your own power away and giving it to everybody else, which requires equity, equality, and inclusion, which y'all don't want. Y'all just can't stand having everybody have something good, because you guys need to be the ones that only have something good. You guys don't want everybody to have nice things. You only just want you to have nice things. And so then when everybody else wants to have nice things, it's like, oh my God, it's a crime wave, when really, if everybody had nice things all collectively, then we wouldn't need to take from each other. Why in the hell do I complain if I take one slice of cake, give it to 5 people, and then keep the rest of the cake for myself? Of course I'm going to be worried about somebody stealing some of my cake, because guess what? I gave a little sliver of cake to 5 people, and now I have the rest of the cake to myself. And guess what? What? I can't blame them for wanting to take some of the slices of the cake away from me, because I took most of the cake away. So why in the hell are we sitting here talking about crime for crime's sake, when really it's because of a huge chunk of the pie that's been taken away from people? And so now they're fighting to get that pie. Guess what? That's all you need to do in order to get rid of it. Give them some more pie, man. Jeez Louise, these people make it sound like it's so complex, when really it's actually quite simple.
Cars, you had people being stabbed in the street. By the way, the vast majority of victims of crime are Black and brown people.
Why?
So to act as though there's not a crime issue, I think is dismissing the fact that it is serious and people do not feel safe. And so, yes, we need to address the root causes of why someone may turn towards crime, or why they may find themselves.
What is the root cause? Give us the root cause, bearded man.
As part of a gang, but we also need to hold people accountable with the decisions that they make. And I think.
But the thing is that the decisions that they make are based on what? What are they based on? What is the factor that's making them make these decisions? That's the crazy part. You're creating the conditions in order for them to make these choices, and then you blame it on them for a systemic issue. Fix the issue, dude.
I think part of the problem here is that oftentimes it is very easy to go say law enforcement bad, but the vast
because they are. You want to know why? Because every single time someone who's actually a police officer tries to speak out, then guess what? They get vilified, they get ostracized, they even get attacked by their fellow police officers, and then they have to leave the force. So all the good cops that you want to talk about are gone. They're not police officers anymore. That means everybody else that says either does the wrong or they keep a tight lip on who does the wrong. So guess what? They all are wrong. ACAB, all cops are bad. Absolutely. So what are you talking about? Guess what? They are literally protecting their own. If they're and also remember, silence is violence. So if you're a police officer and you see your fellow officers doing bad, but you don't say anything, guess what? You're just as guilty as them. So when we say all cops, ACAB, we mean it. And then they say, oh, well, it's a bad apple. Finish the quote. Finish the quote. One bad apple does what? It spoils the whole bunch. Guess what? The whole entire bunch is spoiled. It's spoiled. Dear God.
majority of people who are in law enforcement are good people. I come from a community that has
allegedly
strong law enforcement presence. 50% of households in my district have a cop, a firefighter, a first responder, or a veteran in them. They're good people, and they want to do right by our communities.
The vast majority of people in poor and working class neighborhoods are good people.
They are.
And they are victims of crime that we don't say anything about. For instance,
they want
you can push a good person to do quote unquote bad things if you put them in a situation where they have no choice but to do bad things in order to survive. I'm going to say it again. You can push a good person to do bad things if you put them in an environment where they have to do bad things in order to survive. If you put them at a point to, a lot of these crimes are actually done under duress because they really have no choice but to do them in order to survive. You got a dude that's selling a brick on the side of the road. Is he doing that by choice? Is he putting himself at risk of being put in prison by choice? Is that just a free choice and goes, oh, well, you know what? I'm going to sell this because I want to get all this money just so that I can just have all this money. Whereas if you actually give them opportunity and take away the desperation, will they go the crime route? If they actually have true opportunity and no desperation, if they actually have a floor, an economic floor, then will they actually logically make the choice to still sell bricks on the side of the road? Hell no. Well, they won't need to. Take away the need to commit crimes, and then the crimes will not be committed. Or that they will go drastically down. That's how it works. If I'm constantly in fear of my phone dropping to the floor, there's a couple of things I could do, right? Or not even my phone. Let's say this mug, right? Either I could put it in a place where it is a lot more difficult to drop, or I can just put it on the floor. If I sit it on the floor, the likelihood of it breaking is extremely low. Why? Because it's already on the floor. It can't fall from the floor. So if you give people a stable floor so that they won't fall, guess what? They don't fall, which means society doesn't have a breakdown. If you have society that doesn't have a breakdown, then guess what? That you won't have to worry about the crime that you're talking about. That's how it works. The more you know. And it's funny because I've never stepped foot in a college. I'm not college educated. I'm not. You guys want to go college educated? Go to Sammy. She's based and she's college educated. By the way, she's not going to be live today. She's watching this game, the big game. So I'll be on Due Dissidence at 4 p.m. today. So if you guys want to see more of me, then go to Due Dissidence channel, give them a sub, and you guys can see me there. By the way, did you like the stream? Give me a like. That's the crazy part. A lot of people just don't realize this. And this dude over here, Mr. Beardman, just doesn't get the concept for some reason.
Of crime that we don't say anything about. For instance,
Exactly. They want police
for instance, there is no police presence when they're a victim of wage theft. We're not seeing anybody fear-mongering.
I passed legislation awesome.
And I would like to see it happen.
Okay, so he's completely flipped the argument. So she's like, well, nobody talks about wage theft. They're being stolen from. And he's like, well, I passed legislation. Why are you getting so defensive, bro? What? Well, hold up. This dude just got defensive. He's pressed. And this is a Democrat coming after him. Can you imagine if RBN actually came after and talked to this guy? Oh my God. This dude is pressed. Hey, hang on.
For instance, there is no police presence when they're a victim of wage theft. We're not seeing anybody fear-mongering.
I passed legislation. Who gives a shit, Sherlock? People are still being subject to wage theft.
I passed legislation.
Awesome. And I would like to see it happening here, because what we don't see when we're talking about crime, we're really talking about white-collar crime. We're really talking about ways in which we're going to hold corporate criminals accountable. We're really taking any strides in any level of government to do anything about that. But we continue to talk about the crimes of desperation, and particularly the crimes in marginalized communities.
Now, while Summerlee does have a good point, here's the thing. A lot of those white-collar crimes that she's talking about, people like Mr. Bearded Man is not going to do anything about it, because they're the ones who actually get the money for their campaigns from these people that do the white-collar crimes. So he's not going to go after them. Not for real. And then, according to Summer Lee, guess what? Your party also gets money from those same people, so they're not going to do it. Also, if you're going to be talking about your party, you need to go to the president, Joe Biden, for his perpetuation of the 94 crime bill. You need to go to the father of mass incarceration, who is the president in your party. But I don't see you call him out. So if you're going to be talking about it, let's talk about it. Now, I wrote some notes. And I hope this makes sense, because this is why I entitled it State of Crime. Here's what I wrote down. I said, people want to talk about crimes of individuals, but they never want to talk about crimes of the state. The crime rate has gone up when it comes to the crimes of the state. The difference is that the state violence that has risen, homelessness, wage theft, hunger, lack of education, housing insecurity, environmental degradation, lack and denial of clean water, etc., are all violence of the state. They focus on the problem of the individual, but the real problem is the system. It needs to be dismantled and rebuilt to serve everyone, not capital. So, meaning, and people will be like, oh, well, these are corporations. Who does the corporations own? Who do they own? They own the state. So guess what? It's state violence that is perpetuating the crime. Because guess what? Most people individually aren't committing crimes like that anymore. And then the one-shots that happen are constantly being recycled in the news over and over and over. Oh my God, this happened. Oh my God, this happened. When really, in reality, the violence that's perpetually happening to all of us is on behalf of the state. It's by the state on behalf of corporations. That's the problem. The crime is 7,000 people being laid off by Disney, even though they have record profits. That's the crime. That's the crime. You being evicted, that's the crime. You being housing insecure, that's the crime. These people making hand over fist and then extracting all your labor value from you, that's the crime. The proxy war in Ukraine, that's the crime. The proxy war in Yemen, that's the crime. There are crimes being committed, but it's by the people who have the authority. It's not you. It's not me. Y'all, look, they're pissing their pants over somebody stealing a jar of Similac, a can of Similac. Meanwhile, you got these people who are doing stock buybacks and laying off thousands of people. What? You got to be shitting me. You literally have police officers shooting people, beating people to death or maiming them, and people want to focus on, if we looted a Target. It's crazy. Maybe if we had all the things that we were supposed to have as far as a base, we wouldn't need to do that. It's not an individual problem. It is systemic. And so when people want to talk about, it's funny. I find it funny when people want to talk, everybody wants to talk about personal responsibility, but nobody wants to talk about community responsibility. The fact that we actually have a duty to each other. That's the thing. Thank you so much to Case Study for this clip. I have a couple things to share with you in regards to this. Want to talk about crime? Let's talk about crime. All right. Mappingpoliceviolence.org. Great site. I recommend it. Says police have killed 1,174 people in the U.S. so far in 2022. That's 1,174 murders. Where's the outrage? Where is the outrage? This is crime. That's crime. Just because the person has a badge and a gun doesn't mean it's still not any less crime. That's homicide. 1,174 homicides. Everybody wants to talk about, they're the good ones. No, they're not. We've seen time and time again, and it doesn't matter the color they are. Because look, what happened with Tyree Nichols? Guess what? There were 5 police officers that were black. Guess what? Some of the other police officers were not black, they were white. So it goes across racial lines as far as how bad police are. So please don't come at me with that. So there's crimes being perpetuated by the state. Let's also talk about civil asset forfeiture, where they're literally stealing from you in broad daylight in 4K. So they're also committing theft. Let's also talk about the rape. There's 250,000 rape cases in the police departments that have not been shown or tested within this entire country. How many of them rape kits have the DNA of some of these police officers in them? Over 40% of police officers have admitted to spousal abuse. Admitted to it. Can you imagine how many of them have not admitted it? Can you imagine? Crimes by the state. Let's go to the next one. Homelessness in America. This is from security.org. Says 5 582,462 individuals are experiencing homelessness in America, an increase about 2,000 people since the last complete census conducted in 2020. About 30% of people without homes are experiencing chronic patterns of homelessness. This means they've been without homes for more than 12 months or have experienced extended periods of extended homelessness over the past 3 years. Most states saw their homeless populations rise since 2019, including 4 with a tally more than double: Delaware, Vermont, Louisiana, Maine. 60% of individuals experiencing homelessness are male, though unsheltered homelessness rose by 5% among women and girls. More than a quarter of those experiencing homelessness are with their families and children. Much progress has been made in reducing homelessness among military veterans. Homelessness in this population declined by 11% over the past 2 years and has been halved since 2010. So, homelessness, that's state violence. That's state violence because housing is a human right. And you're leaving these people out to the elements, to the heat and to the cold, to the rain. That's state violence on behalf of the corporations. Let's go to another one. Another one. Want to talk about state violence? All right, let's talk about state violence. It says new research finds 2.7 million households receive eviction filings annually. Annually. A bunch of people are being evicted. This is from the National Low Income Housing Coalition. The study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, estimating eviction prevalence across the United States, offers new estimates of the rates of eviction filings and number of households threatened with evictions from 2000 to 2018. Using both court-issued records and proprietary data, the authors of the study model eviction court filings in each state and find that between 2000 and 2018, 3.6 million eviction cases were filed annually on average. Why do evictions happen? It is because an eviction happens because a person has not paid their rent. Well, why have they not paid their rent? Is it just because they just don't want to pay it? They actually have the money to pay it and they're doing pretty well. They just don't want to pay it. Most of the time, it's because they can't afford it. And so therefore, they have evictions. Housing is a human right. People being evicted is state violence. People want to talk about violence? All right, we're going to talk about it. Let's go to the last one. More state violence, because states aren't actually helping people. Wage theft is a much bigger problem than robbery. The value of wages earned but not received compared to the value of property stolen in robberies in 2012. This was in 2012, 341 million in robberies and wage theft, $933 million. This was 2012. This was 11 years ago. This is from the Economic Policy Institute. Wage theft is a much bigger problem than other forms of theft, but workers remain mostly unprotected. And yet, people want to talk about individual crime. So this is why I call it the state of crime. The state is committing crime on behalf of the corporations. Even if they aren't committing the crime themselves, they are looking the other way while these corporations commit crimes against people. And you wonder why many of us are turning to socialism and communism? Because capitalism is showing its whole ass. And now we see it for what it really is. See, like I said, I had no Krejcivik on my channel yesterday from Midwestern Marks, and one of the things that we spoke about was that capitalism is showing itself to be wholly inadequate. See, back in the day, during the great migration to the suburbs, for a lot of white people especially, capitalism was popping. It was gone. Everybody was like, yeah, let's go out into the suburbs. Then they start having, nicer lives, and they were able to afford a household on one income. Things were gravy. But then guess what? Capitalists saw that everybody was living gravy in this area, and they started clawing things back, saying, nope, we want this money back again. And so guess what? Then they got their boy, they got Ronald Reagan in there, and they start clawing back even more. Then comes Bill Clinton, clawing back more. Then comes George W. Bush, clawing back more. Then comes Barack Obama, clawing back more. Then it comes Donald Trump, clawing back more. Now we have Joe Biden. And so because of that, now we're all seeing the austerity and the degradation of our society, because this is the true nature of capitalism. This is how it works. And some people go, no, it's corporatism. Actually, no, because corporatism is capitalism. It is that drawing of resources and pooling of resources away from people in order to put it up at the top. And that's how it works. And so people will have commit crime of opportunity and desperation, or a lack of opportunities rather, and desperation in order to survive. And so even some of the people who you were regard as the most depraved in our society, like people like drug dealers and whatnot, I got something to tell you. Most people who actually are dealing drugs on the streets are actually doing it under duress, because they feel that that's the only option that they truly have in order to lift themselves up. I talked about duress last week on RBN Live. Let's go into it again, because I explained it before. Let's explain it again. What is duress? Whether you're selling drugs or you're selling coffee, a lot of you guys are in duress. A lot of us are in duress. It says duress, threats, violence, constraints, or other action brought to bear on someone to do something against their will or better judgment. Also synonymous with coercion, compulsion, force, pressure, intimidation. Law definition says constraint illegally exercised to force someone to perform an act. The system makes it so that people would have to do either legal or illegal things in order to survive. And then some would accept a wage that is a starvation wage, or if they don't see that as viable, they may see a more viable option to do something by illegal means in order to make more so that they can survive better. So this is what they do. And is it the fault of the individual? No, it is a systemic issue. You have to change the system in order for people to survive and thrive. And we explain this all the time, but people look at us like we're crazy. I'm going to the chat. Goodness. Let me go to Rockfin first. Thanks for the tip on Rockfin. Roger says, New York City people are pushed to the front of trains. Long Island, they are drunk by train tracks. In suburbs, before Uber cabs posted up at Long Island Railroad. For years, I drove Long Island cabs, and I seen pieces of humans spread out over tracks out here because they were drunk and got ran over. I got a solution to make part of infrastructure at every station. Fence contour to train shape. Electronic gate opens when aligned with train door. Did you know that they actually have that at Disney with the monorails? They got that. I've seen it. They can actually do it, but they just don't want to. But it actually exists in Disney. Because the monorails are literally like 30, 40 feet above ground. And they're on this singular concrete track. And so they keep this gate that's about up to waist length closed until the monorail comes to a complete stop. But before and after that, those gates remain closed and they are electronically operated. So you can make them higher and then have them open and close for public transit. But this would mean money that could be utilized instead of having all these police in order to keep people more safe. Thank you so much for that, Roger. Austin Jones says General Strike Revolution. Yeah, definitely needs something like that. Camp Cat says, how green was my valley? I have no idea. Robert Templeton says, to those with privilege, equality seems like persecution. The hierarchy must remain for capitalism to work. Harry Gustav says, this is why people must learn MMTs to fight the austerity myths. The federal government issued the U.S. dollar can always pay out Social Security benefits. What actually matters if economy is productive enough to provide. Thank you so very much. Maui Bro Kai Oi says, surviving is stealing food, not effing TVs. You know what? I'm going to push back a little bit. So what if they steal TV? So what? A lot of times what they'll do is they'll steal the TV, go to a pawn shop, pawn the TV, get the money for it. Because they need the money for other things. It may not be food. They probably got a little bit of food in their house, but guess what? You can't pay your rent with food. You can't pay your electric bill with food. You can't pay your car note with food. Or if they steal one and keep one for themselves, it's probably because they don't have one that's adequate enough. But the problem is still the system. It's the system. So that's the problem. If we change the system, then we wouldn't have to worry about this hardly. Unless somebody's a kleptomaniac. Austin Jones says most of the people seeing our drugs are using drugs are white suburbanites. Roger says corporations are the tool of which capitalism operates under. Cooperatives are the tools with which socialism operates under. Thank you so very much. The rest giving excuses for pathetic looters. Actually, no. It's actually quite a it's actually a good explanation as to why people do some of the things that they do. The problem is that people like you actually just don't have a heart, and you don't actually really care to find out exactly why people do things that they do. So you just come into the chat just to basically berate people for their individual choices instead of realizing that it's a systemic problem that even you suffer from. So this is one of the reasons why I talk about what I talk about. And when I talk about things like housing as a human right, healthcare as a human right, and all these other things, that also means that I'm actually talking about and trying to help people to liberate themselves, including you, because I feel that you are also a victim of the system. And here's the thing, you can say, oh, well, this is a victim mentality. You're damn right, it's a victim mentality. And guess what victims do? They also try to get back on their feet. And how do you do that? You actually rectify the harm that has been done. What harm has there been done? Well, if you look at systemic harm, then guess what? Then that means we have to get rid of the system that's in place. Guess what? A victim mentality is not necessarily a bad thing if it is used in the right way. And so you're calling people who loot pathetic. I call billionaires who actually steal all the profits of their labor, I call them pathetic because they're the ones who are literally stealing from people in order to have these opulent lives when they don't actually do shit. How does that boot taste? Like pleather? Yeah. Thank you. Alone Same says austerity creates duress. Baba Yaga Forest Dweller says America is a regressive country. The elites think that what they do is progress. Progress is humans coming together to create innovative for the betterment of mankind to care for the earth that progress. Thank you so very much. Rogers says focus on corporate looters who stole homes and wages. Thank you. All right. Jay the informant says Brett Favre need more money. Jay. Brett Favre needed it. Brett Favre was like, I need more money. Reality Revolution says they're bank robbers. Yeah. Austin says the corporate handouts are the problem. Direct entitlements to citizens have been proven to be highly effective. Turns out most folks are smart. Yeah. Thank you, Austin. And so that's the problem. And a lot of people are trying to focus on solutions. There are some upcoming, I think there's like 2 or 3 upcoming anti-war rallies coming up soon. And also there are different organizations like I talk about Strive Pensacola. They're a great organization that is actually trying to help people with housing. You also have Casey Tenants. They're also trying to help provide people with housing or to keep themselves in housing. So you have the organizations like that. But this is one of the things that we're trying to do is to try and change the system. Jamie, oh, this is good. Most people don't commit crimes when their basic needs are met. Basically, you said it better than I could. Yeah. And so, yeah, so I have to get going because I have to prepare for due dissidence. But I will be there in 1 hour. So if you guys are still watching, you guys want to get some more of JB, you can catch me on due dissidence. I'll be there with Keaton Weiss. And we will be talking about some really interesting subjects as well. I cannot wait to go over it with you guys. And also, uh, by the way, if you guys want to, if you guys are going to be watching the big game, then you guys can watch us before the big game so that you guys can, get some more of JB. That'd be cool. You know what I'm saying? And yeah. Oh, it's very fair. I didn't get to see you. Says my mother is appalled by the belief that we shouldn't have to earn our survival. Don't know how she'd take it from someone other than me. You can show my channel, you can show RBN, you can show many of us and then see how she feels. But who knows? Oh, Baba says drop the link. Oh, hang on. Do 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 do. Do 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 dissidence. It's got my gigantic mug on the front. And by the way, congratulations to Do Dissidents. They just hit 5,000 subs. So if you like us, then you're gonna love Do Dissidents. I'm telling you. So there is the link to Do Dissidents. So that's where I'll be, and in 1 hour, okay? And Noah says, nice red sweatshirt you got on. Great stream as well. Love hearing you break it down. Thank you. Appreciate it. This is actually a thermal. It's a thermal, not a sweatshirt. Let me see. Oh, wait. So, yeah. Mom got it for me. Yeah. It's actually more red in real life than it is in here. It's a nice deep red in real life. It's just kind of bright and it looks kind of lighter reddish. But, yeah. So. Oh, yeah. This is actually a good tip. Sweary Fairy. Rick Solis says, yeah, don't try to convince people yourself. In my experience, just show them clips and watch and judge it for themselves. Also, Sweary Fairy, just to add on what Rick said, listen to your shows with the volume up around them. Don't even be like, oh, I want to show you. No. Just play it around them, right? Like you'll have your phone, don't have your earbuds in, don't have, just have the volume up loud. And then like you'll be cooking in the kitchen or something like that, or you'll be like just chilling. Have the volume up and so within earshot. And then they'll be hearing it. And then they'll perk it up. I got you, bud. I got you, bestie. All right. Reality, how you know I'm magic? Let me go. I gotta get going. Oh my goodness. Thanks, Queerback Socialist. Don't tell Sabby I just made a reference to underwear because she'll look at me like JB. I gotta behave myself with Sabby. So I love y'all. Y'all just great. Y'all just beautiful people. Andrew says, my dad and I took care of my grandpa for a year when he got sick. And we also built a garden together. Those two did more to change my dad's perspective than anything I ever said or sent to him. That's also a good thing. Yeah, let's just keep going. You know what I mean? And the thing is just one more thing before I go. One more thing. A lot of times we talk about changing the system from a more scientific or just rational thought type of deal. We can take a book out of the right wing. And what do I mean? Connect emotions to it. See, here's the benefit that we have. We have the logic and rationale, but we can also put emotion with it. Make it an emotional argument as well. And so when you do that, it's no longer just boring. Oh, let's talk about Marxism and dialectical materialism, blah, blah, blah. No. Let's start making it to, man, you're paying these people all this money for rent and then you still don't own the place. How many years you been renting this place? Oh, 10 years. How much money has that gone into rent that you could have actually owned the place? Or, oh man, you've been working for this company for how many years? You've been making all this money, giving and making these people up here rich instead of it actually going to you. Wouldn't it be nice if you and your fellow workers actually owned the joint, and then you guys actually democratically had a say over how it operated, and you guys actually made the profits collectively and shared it amongst yourselves? Boom. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. Because that's how we can get change, is that planting those seeds. Yes, Screen Arts Media. Personalize it. Thank you. And that you just basically summed it up very well for me. Thank you. Personalize it. Talk about, wouldn't it be nice if, you didn't have student loans, that you could just go to school and then you can actually do what you want to, what you would like to do. And let's say you're just happy just being a laborer. Okay, you can be happy in being a laborer and doing what you want on the weekends. But the thing is that you don't have to work as much doing that labor. You act, oh, excuse me. You can do that labor, but in a small amount of hours while still making a thriving wage. Like, talk about it from an emotional and personal perspective. And that will also help people to see what you see. Anyway, thanks so much, everybody. Love one, love all. Each one, teach one. By the way, water your plants, water yourselves. Leave the world better than you found it. And solidarity with the workers. Solidarity with all the former cast members. But things are going to change. It's going to be better for you. Mwah. Forehead kisses to all of you, including you workers out there. Workers of the world, unite. Deuces.